and welcome to the Medium Next Door, and my name is Bonnie Page. So happy that you're tuning in today. We have a very special guest. Her name is Linda Sacaro. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Bonnie.
Thank you for being here today. Linda is a medium, she's a Reiki master, she's an author, but she also specializes in animal communication. So she's going to give us some tips today of, how we can talk to our animals, and she's going to give you some stories of readings and all different animal communication stories that hopefully you can use at home. And I'm so excited to have Linda here. She's not only just all of these things, she's actually my cousin, and how I'm always talking about this gift that we have is inherited in our mothers. We're sisters, so happy to have my cousin actually doing this work with me also. But Linda specializes in this, and I know we're just going to have a great half an hour. So thank you, Linda, again for being with us. And I'm going to start off with asking her a little bit about animal communication. And I know, Linda, some of what you do is working with soul contracts. So can you explain to everyone what a soul contract is?
Sure. As an animal communicator, I believe that every animal in our life is here for a special purpose. And each and every animal, whether they're pets, wild animals, the animals next door, not necessarily your own animal, is here to help you and to teach you a lesson. My sessions fall into two different categories. Sometimes people come for a reading when they want to check in with their animal that has passed on. And they may just want to check in to be sure that they're okay. Other times they just miss them. And sometimes they're ready to get a new pet, a new dog or a new cat, and they just want to have that feeling that it's okay with their animal that passed. And I can tell you I've never encountered an animal who didn't think it was okay. And in fact, that animal is usually involved in sending that next pet to you. So
exactly. I do a lot of readings also. And I just have animals pop in, either cats who don't really like to talk to you that much, or a lot of dogs, or even horses. And can I just say that I can actually have people, the animals that are in heaven, but also souls of your animals that you have at home that come through and talk to me also. And I don't really specialize in animal communication, but I know what you say is true. A lot of times they're like, oh, we're gonna even help you train that new puppy. Like that dog that lived with you all those years and loves you to pieces doesn't want you to be alone. And they'll say, to me, tell my mom, tell my dad, I know where the puppy bed's gonna be, the toys, they show me their bed that they laid in, and they actually say, no, I'm gonna help you get this new puppy. I'll help train it. So I know that they believe it's also a blessing from heaven when you bring a new dog or cat into your home. And horses are very strong too, so I think it's a blast talking to a horse. So how do you feel about that? Do you think people should wait for a sign or a feeling to know if it's time for a new animal to be brought in, Linda?
I think each case is individual, but if you're questioning it, then you could look for a sign, and your pet will be more than happy to send you a sign that it's okay. I lost my Saint Bernard. I can show you a picture of him here. Saint Bernard by the name of Bo. And it was so comforting for me to talk to the animal communicator and hear that he was okay on the other side. And the way that he showed me that it was okay is that apples were his favorite food, his favorite toy, his favorite everything. And when the communication came through, he was sitting in an apple tree. So it was his version of the perfect life,
It's a
is to just
sign,
be
it's a
there. Yeah, it's
sign.
just a great sign.
So just to skip ahead a little, so Linda, you went to see an animal communicator before you became one.
Oh, sure. I actually see, even though I'm an animal communicator, I would see another communicator when it was a time when I was too emotional or too close to the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you know, the feelings.
Because sometimes we get blocked, you know. So what blocks energy from us receiving signs or signals is, you know, we can still be hurt or a little fearful or just really still a little emotional,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
to
and
get
sometimes
that
it's hard to
message.
get messages for yourself, a little bit hard, you know, for your own
Yeah,
things.
I think so. So I'm gonna ask Linda to tell me a very special story that she has of a very special dog in her life. But I also want to mention that you've written a story about this very special dog, and it was in Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yes.
And what were the two books it was in, Linda?
It's in the Chicken Soup for the Pet Lover's Soul and Chicken Soup Leap of Faith. So it's in two of those books. But it's also out on my website, and you'll see that at the end. You can go ahead out there and read it, and you can see a picture of my dog. His name was Dominic.
I can tell you when I read it this morning, Linda sent it to me, tears were rolling down. So I'm just going to hand it over to her and let her tell you about the story.
Okay, and no guarantee that tears won't start here. It's a tough story for me, so I'll try not to do that. This is a picture of Dom, and maybe you'll be able to see it, but you'll certainly be able to see it when you go online or if you have that book. And Dominic is an example of the second type of reading that I do, and that's getting to the soul contract level. And the soul contract it's an agreement that happens between an animal and a human, where that animal has decided to work with that person to teach them a life lesson. So for me, this dog Dominic came in 2 years before I had a very serious accident, and later he actually saved my life, and I'll get into some of the details of that. The story starts with every morning as I was waking up, I heard a message from Spirit telling me very specifically to go to a certain shelter and to pick up a certain dog. And I'd know the dog that I was to adopt, and I already had a dog, so this was a total leap of faith going when I did go. I would know that dog because there's something unique about the dog's face. But you know, it happened during that twilight time when we're just waking up, and I couldn't quite remember the details of what was different about this dog's face. But at the end of the week, on Saturday morning, I went directly to that shelter, and I walked through and I looked at all the dogs, adult dogs, pups, looking for one with a unique face. I thought I didn't find him. I started to walk out of the shelter, and a little box of dogs, they were all black, and one had a lighter coloring, were off to the side. And one of them looked as though he didn't have fur on his face. And so I was attracted to him. I picked him up, and on closer inspection, I realized he did have fur, but it was gray, so it looked like he didn't have fur. I set him back with the rest of the puppies, thinking still I hadn't found the dog that I was sent there to find. When it hit me, you know, it's the dog with the face. I went back, and I picked him up, and I went right away to adopt him. And when I got there, I found that somebody already had his adoption card. So I waited, and I waited for about an hour. And finally, the people were deciding between Dominic, who's at that time, his name was Fettuccine, and another pup. And when they realized someone was waiting for him, they let me have Dominic.
And so, that's the part that made me cry, because that woman was so nice.
I'm also doing it in a very more mechanical way, so I don't cry, but you'll read the story. And so I took him home, and he was a normal pup. He was very smart, and he always played in a way with me where he'd get on top of me and hold me down. And I thought that was just play. And his breed was Chesapeake Bay Retriever and Yellow Lab. So he grew up to be a pretty big dog. And at the time of my accident, where he helped me, he was about 90 pounds. Mm-hmm. So I was out skiing with another cousin.
Oh.
And I hit my head numerous times coming down a trail. And following that accident, I had grand mal seizures several times a day, sometimes having up to 4 seizures a day. And that puppy that was sent to me turned out to be a natural-born seizure assistant dog. And he would, that same little thing that he practiced all along, he'd hold me down so that I wouldn't thrash and get hurt. And he also came to warn me so that I'd know a seizure was coming on, and I could just sit down on the floor so that I wouldn't get hurt, and hold on to his legs. And he'd just stick with it and ride that seizure with me. So it's just, you know, that's a soul contract. I've experienced one, I think, for sure. He came into my life through a message from Spirit, and then he saved my life because doctors said that many seizures living on my own, I would have never made it.
You could have fell down, hurt yourself, not come back. I mean, he was on top of you, and he was, bringing you back. Well, what he'd do
is he'd get on top of me, and then he'd bark. And from that place that you go to when you're having a seizure, I'd follow his voice back.
That's amazing, amazing story.
Yeah, so I wrote the story. I didn't know how to honor him. I mean, it took 1.5 years, but I got better, and I don't have any seizures or any problems like that anymore.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Praise the Lord.
Thank Dominic.
Yes, and so that's quite a soul contract that you have with another animal. It sounds like he knew what his job was in your life.
He knew from the beginning. He was practicing by holding me down as a pup.
So he came from heaven knowing that he was going to have a person that he needed to help.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I get goosebumps all over me just saying that, because it's so true. And I'm sure many of you have animals that, you know, they're not even your animals. They're your babies. They're your children. They are your family members. And we all understand what it means to have that bond. So when they can be so helpful to you, it's just amazing.
Yes.
I do want to mention this book. I wonder if you can see it. It's called The Secret of the Greater Mountain. And it's a book that Linda actually wrote. And it's a wonderful book. And I'm going to have her explain that too a little bit.
Well, this book, it also ties in with the soul contract. So the soul contract is the dog's job, in a way, the dog's job that they have with you. Mm-hmm. And so this book is for adults and children, and it talks about, you know, why did your dog come here, and why do they have to leave at some point? And so it helps you with pet loss, as much as a story can help. It's, yeah, but
this book was kind of meant for children, but it's for everyone, right?
Actually,
Linda?
It started out as a children's book. It's a fully illustrated book, and
it's a nice
but what I
book.
found
It really
is that people were giving it to other adults more than children. So the next time I had a batch printed, I decided to go with a smaller size so that it fits in an envelope, so that people can mail them to friends when they either adopt a dog or they lose a dog. So it ended up having more of an adult following than a children, but it's actually for both.
Because it covers both places, that time where a dog comes into your life and then that sad time when they leave, you know.
Yeah. And it also encourages people to adopt from shelters.
It's that stretch. We know, everyone, all dogs go to heaven. That's so true,
Yes.
isn't it, Linda? I mean, and that's not your book, we know, but all dogs go to heaven. Because we see them,
well,
and people feel their own pets around them, right?
So what I say is all dogs go to the Greater Mountain. They all come from the Greater Mountain. They all go to the Greater Mountain.
Which I know is heaven. You know, a lot of people can actually feel their animals around their ankles when they're cooking, or feel their cat jump on the bed. You know, their cat will come to me and I'll say, oh, your cat's still sleeping with you. And they're like, oh, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that was. Now I know what that was. And I'm thinking, didn't you want to know what that was when you felt something jumping on your bed, right? So it's just, they're still there for comfort. They never really leave you. They never really leave you. And I always tell everybody, when you go to heaven, you get all your animals back.
Oh,
you do.
Sweet.
So
They are
think of that.
often still working on that soul contract with you when they pass over. I've had a lot of clients where their animal has passed over, and then we do the reading and find out that they're still working on the contract with you. Because sometimes what you're learning is to deal with death or letting go or moving on. And so that animal is still helping you to do those things. And of course, as we said, they're sending your next pet to you to keep that training going for you.
Yes, yes, yes. And Linda, can you tell me how people, just us normal people that aren't doing the soul contracts or animal communication, can you tell the people out there how maybe they can learn to communicate with their animal a little?
Yes.
Because I know they're trying to get thoughts to us.
Absolutely.
Right?
You're
I mean,
absolutely
they
right.
look at you with those eyes and you're like, what? Sometimes we really know, right? But maybe give us a couple of tips for people out there.
Sure. I have a couple tips right here. So the best time is when your pet's very relaxed. So if it's your dog, maybe they've already been out for their walk and they're running, they've been running. Everyone should be relaxed when you start to do this. You may want to start by connecting with your pet, by just patting them, or just holding your hands on them and making that connection. But keep in mind that sometimes you don't want to look right in the animal's eyes, because well, for a dog, that would, it's just a...
It means something different.
It means something different.
Sometimes.
And what you'll find is that often when you start the communication, your animal will fall asleep. Or they might, they might turn away from you, but especially with a dog, they won't tend to look you right in the eyes like we're comfortable doing that when we talk. But for a dog, it tells them you're trying to be dominant in a way. So,
I see.
So you have to think about the kind of animal you have and what will make them comfortable. So
unless you have a golden retriever like I do, because we stare at each other in our eyes.
Yeah, each individual pet is different.
And he doesn't mind at all. So test out your animal.
Exactly. You know your animal best.
Right. Yeah.
So you want to get comfortable, make sure that they are not hyper, they're very relaxed. Make a connection with them however you do. But one thing that's important, especially if you're talking with your animal because you're wondering how they're feeling, or if their paw hurts, or they have a stomach ache, or something's wrong. A very good thing to do before you get started is, for one thing, always have something to write with. And sit back and really, once you're relaxed, sit back and feel your own body. How do you feel? Does your elbow hurt? Do you have a headache? Is your stomach grumbling? Does your toe hurt? Kind of go through and really make a note of how your body feels. And then when you connect with your animal, and they sort of kind of lay their body over yours energetically, or you connect, you might feel, oh, my hip hurts.
Yeah,
well, that didn't hurt before I connected, so maybe my dog is sending me this information, or my cat is sending me, or my horse.
Because we're picking up that energy,
so it's good to know where your body is before you start.
Before you start, and then if something comes on and you're like, oh, I didn't have that, that's such a good way to them to communicate to you what's happening, because, they can't just go blah, 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 I have a stomach ache, I think I need some medicine or
eventually,
whatever.
You might have a dog that just says, yeah, my foot hurts, I mean, it's all your individual animal.
I actually can tell on my golden retriever when anything's happening in his body, but I have that little knowledge of really kind of scanning him and seeing how he's feeling.
Part at the bottom of my recommendations is I say just continue to practice. and practice with different sorts of things, building your intuition and learning about
Definitely.
connecting and all those things. So, you're picking up, and your dog or cat or fish may exactly look at you and say, here's what's going on, So the other thing is to, we said, notice how your body is, hold your hands on them, tell them what you're doing. Just come right out and say, I want to talk to you. I want to understand you. Just talk to them just like you would
They totally
a person.
understand.
And I mean, I've been doing this with my pets for a long time, and now I can just say, let's talk. Do you want to talk? And they get very excited, and we sit down like it's story time for children. And so that you'll get to that point as you practice. Just set that time, set a quiet time. Maybe even go to the same spot. So that's the spot where we talk. And then they'll realize you're listening to me. So that's the next step. You sit quiet, tell them right out. You can say it out loud that you want to communicate with them. You want to talk to them. You want to understand them.
And it is practice, right, Linda? Because practice really does make perfect for a lot of things, but just really practicing until you get comfortable and they get comfortable, and then there's just a flow between you.
Yes. Yeah, and it's the practices for both of you. The animals at first, they're really talking to us all the time, but we don't hear them. So now you're really saying you want to talk to them. You're really listening. You're fully listening them. You're giving them all your attention, and they'll start to develop this skill as well. They'll be able to tell you things.
I imagine that really helps with any behavioral issues too, like why are you chewing or why are you doing this? They might say, well, I'm bored, give me something to do.
Give me some attention.
Right? Attention, there you go.
Yes.
So I think that would really help also, right?
It does, and and that can be the topic you bring up. You can just talk to them like you might explain to anyone. When you chew my shoe, that only leaves me with one. And, and this is a problem because, I don't have paws. I'm just kidding. But, you can talk about the issues that are going on in the house and explain things to them and listen to them. But don't be surprised if it looks like your dog or cat's not listening to you. They may get up and walk across the room and lay down. Or they might fall sound asleep. But that's when the flow is happening. You can believe and trust that information is happening. And write down any impression you get. I call it raw data. Write that raw data down because, it might make sense later.
It usually means something.
It does. Don't try to interpret everything right away or get it into a sentence form as we might get it.
When you get it,
if you get an image,
write it down.
Boom, write it down. Yeah. Write everything down.
Exactly.
I can't stress that enough. And just one more point there is that you may not get it right then and there. You might be a person who gets this information
a little later
when you're sleeping. So keep that pad and paper next to you all the time.
So Linda, I know you've been doing readings with this animal communication. Can you tell me a little bit about the readings, or what is the funniest thing that an animal has ever said to you?
Okay, the funniest thing. I've actually had many funny things. But
they'll say
I guess
anything.
The one that sets me back the most, and it actually ties into what we just said about stick with the raw data. A German Shepherd, and this is the German Shepherd right here. And again, these things you'll be able to see later on my website.
Yeah, she'll put it on our website for you.
That dog called me a doofus.
And of course, it's a shepherd.
Okay, so I'm looking at this dog, and the person is there, and I'm giving the reading, and he's calling me a doofus. And of course, I don't really want to say this to the person, but as it turns out,
you got to give it.
I did, and that was his nickname. So he was telling his person, not only did he get it, he knows it's funny, and he knows it's his nickname.
I mean, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And the things we get, you just got to give. So, yeah. And so your readings with animals, does the animal have to be there, or a picture, or how does that work, Linda?
They're usually done over the phone. Rarely when the animal is there, because they get fidgety and they spin around. So it's a phone conversation, don't
and
need a
phone
picture.
readings are amazing because you're just getting the animal or the person. I do phone readings.
Yeah.
You're just getting that person or animal's energy, and it comes through loud and clear, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It's amazing how energy
Yeah,
works, but
I
it
just
comes
need to
through
know,
loud and clear.
The name, whether they're here or on the other side, and what kind of animal is it. And then we'll talk on the phone and
Yeah, it's
find out
great.
how they are.
So we're gonna, you can find Linda at www.greatermountain.com is your website, Linda.
Yes.
And she'll put pictures on about today, so if you missed anything, and her telephone number is there, so you can get into contact with Linda also.
Okay. And it's actually Greater Mountain. There's a typo up there. Yeah.
Oh, there is. Okay. GreaterMountain.com. GreaterMountain.com. And of course, I'm at BonniePageMedium.com. So I hope you enjoyed the show today. I thank you so much for
thank you,
coming
Bonnie.
on, Linda. I'm giving her a hug.
It's fun. It's been
so
very fun.
wonderful having a cousin that I can talk all these things about and help me share all this information and get this out to you. So start practicing on your animals, and we'll see you soon. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.